Hey guys, welcome to Sketch a Day. I'm Spencer, where every day I give you something new and exciting, hopefully interesting about sketching and visual communication. And it's kind of the end of the year, so this week's going to be a little bit short, but I'd like to cover something that a lot of people have asked about. A few weeks back, I just got my iPad Pro and I pulled out my old Surface Pro 3 and my Wacom cintiq and did a quick review and got a lot of feedback and a lot of buzz from that post, so thank you very much for watching. I, however, reached out to Microsoft. A few of the questions I got were, hey, why don't you compare this to a Surface Pro 4? Well, frankly, I didn't own one. I didn't purchase a Surface Pro 4, and I wasn't planning on purchasing one because it wasn't part of my typical workflow. So I reached out to Microsoft and I said, hey, would you guys be willing to send me one to take a look at to compare with the Surface Pro 3 that I had? And sure enough, they were super responsive, super awesome, and they sent me a Surface Pro 4, and I've got it here with me. It's the Core i5 configuration with 256 flash storage and 8 gigabytes of RAM. Sorry, I'm not super technical. In fact, if you're watching this looking for a super technical review or comparison between the Surface Pro 4 and the iPad Pro, you're not going to get it. What you're going to get from me here as an artist is my subjective, from my point of view, experiential review. So things like, how does the stylus feel? What's the perception of the battery life? How does the screen compare? Things like that. So hang with me. We'll take a look at these things one by one. So the first thing I want to point out here is, to make this a more fair comparison, I'm actually just going to be using Sketchbook Pro on the Surface Pro 3 and Sketchbook Pro on the iPad. One of the points of feedback last time was, hey, you're using different apps. I don't know how those are going to compare, or if that's fair, rather. So just to make things a little bit more level, I'm using apps made by the same vendor for both platforms. Now, the obvious differences with the Surface Pro 4 are that it is running Windows 10. So what you get is really a full computer, like your laptop, something like a MacBook Pro or MacBook Air, in this very small package, and that's really cool, really cool. I actually really like the design. I like the feel. It's very sturdy, very light, and it comes with this awesome, cool kickstand. So built in, I'm able to put it on the table. I can even flip this kickstand, watch this, all the way back, and now I can put this on a table, pretty flat, and I can draw on it, which is really cool. With my iPad Pro, I find that I have to use something like one of my Copic markers here, put it behind the iPad Pro, and hope it doesn't slip out. And that kind of gets a little annoying. But truth be told, I don't sketch like that normally. But if you do, and you like to have an inclined surface that you sketch on, then the Surface Pro 4 definitely wins in that area. And like I said, if I drop this thing, I wouldn't feel as nervous as dropping the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro doesn't feel as solid as the Surface Pro 3. In terms of weight, I'm not going to weigh these on a male scale or anything. I'm just going by comparison. And left to right, even if I flip hands here, the Surface Pro 4 definitely feels more dense, more compact, and really solid. So if you're looking for something that is very solid and compact, the Surface Pro 4 is the thing for you. Now, Microsoft, unlike Apple, ships a stylus with the Surface Pro 4. And this stylus happens to be battery powered, replaceable battery. So if I just twist the tip here, let's see if you can see this, I've got a AAA battery. This is one of the few times I've seen one of these. On my Surface Pro 3, it uses the same battery. So really small battery here. A quadruple A battery, and so I'm able to replace the battery on my own, which is a plus over the iPad Pro, who doesn't have a replaceable battery. With the iPad Pro stylus, all you get is this very smooth polished barrel and a lightning connector, which is Apple's proprietary charging port on the pencil. Now, in the last video, I did say that, hey, it's weird that you have to charge the pencil by plugging it into the iPad Pro. Well, you don't have to. You can actually plug in the adapter that Apple provides you, which frankly feels like an afterthought. It feels like a poor design decision, in my opinion. But you are able to use your lightning connector that you charge your iPhone or your iPad with. You just have to use the female to female connector that Apple ships this with. Now, if I don't have one of those, then I do have to plug it into my iPad. And if I lose that thing, I don't see it listed on Apple's website. I might have to buy a new pencil, which is $99 to replace that little thing, which isn't a good thing. So, hands down, I think, well, not hands down. In that regard, with the replaceable battery and the charging, if I were to compare these two, I prefer the idea of the Microsoft Stylus that allows you to replace the battery. Now, they say that it should last up to a year in terms of battery life, so you shouldn't have to worry about, hey, do I have to replace this? Whereas the iPad Pro battery actually lasts a few days before you have to recharge it. So if you hate charging things, then this pen wins. If you don't mind charging things, then this pen wins. Now, there's a few other differences with the stylus, with each stylus rather, for the iPad Pro and the the Surface Pro 4. In the design itself, the Surface Pro 4 pen, it's an improvement on the Surface Pro 3 pen, in that it actually ships, or rather, Microsoft shipped these replaceable tips with me, and they come in this cool case that goes from 2H to H, HB to B. So they definitely were thinking of artists, I think, and creatives in mind when they put together this cool case. Not only does the case have this cool, clear cap on it to protect the tips, but this actually doubles as a tweezer at the bottom of the case. So let me hold that up and you can see it. It's a little tweezer. So I can actually slide this over the tip of my pen and just pull out the tip. So there's the tip, and if I want to replace that, I can take one of these out and put it in. Now, I went ahead and tested these and kind of settled on the HB tip. And with these tips, I'm not sure how long they last because I haven't used this long enough, but they are rubber, some kind of rubber tip. And as far as I understand, they would need to be replaced at some point. And at what point in time, I have no idea. But they would need to be replaced. Now, what this does over the Surface Pro 3, if you watched my review before, is that it gives you a definitely more grippy feel to the screen. Now, it isn't quite a paper texture feel, but you do get that acceleration and deceleration that is inherent to paper as a medium, meaning the grain of the paper naturally slows you down as you are sketching on it, especially if you use a pen or a pencil. And this is a pretty good improvement over the Surface Pro 4. Now with the iPad Pro, Apple decided to just include this rubber tip. It is replaceable, and when you do buy a pencil, here's the gold tip. Once I screwed off this white tip, the pencil tip is replaceable. Now they ship you one replacement, but again, I see nowhere on the Apple Store for a pack of tips or a variety of tips. So I'm sure, for one, there's going to be some industrious person that decides to make custom tips for the iPad Pro, maybe. At least I hope so. And two, it's really surprising that Apple didn't think to stock things like replacement caps for your pencil. I've seen several people who've lost these already, and then they just have a pencil with the lightning connector sticking out. Or what if for some reason your tip chips or breaks, or I don't know. That seems a lot to ask for an artist. We don't have tons of money to go ahead and buy another $100 stylus. So in that regard, the Surface Pro pen, I think, is more versatile in its industrial design. I do prefer the diameter of the Apple Pencil. Now, if you look really closely, see if you can see this on the overhead here. Oh, maybe not. Okay, if you look really closely, or if I were to grab my calipers, the Surface Pro pen is actually a little bigger in diameter than the iPad Pro pencil. So if you like a bigger stylus, then that's the thing for you. The Surface Pro 4 pen is probably ideal. I do like the thinner, smaller stylus that the Apple Pencil is as a product. In fact, with my Wacom products, when I get shipped the newer design of the Wacom stylus that tends to be bigger, I actually just give those away or sell them, and I I go ahead and buy the classic pen because I like a smaller barrel on the pens that I'm using as I'm drawing. One other clear advantage I think that the Surface Pro pen has over the Apple Pencil is that the Surface Pro pen actually ships with a clip built in. So if I want to clip this on my shirt, carry it around with me or whatever, that works really awesome. And even though this is a cylindrical design, there's actually a flat edge here on the overhead. You can see there's this flat edge right here. So it means that if I put it on a tabletop surface on that flat edge, it'll stop rolling. So it won't roll off the table. Also the clip, because the clip is there, it'll keep it from rolling off the table. Just like any ballpoint pen that has a cap on, it won't roll off your table. The Surface Pro pen won't roll off the table. So let's look at a few other things with the Pencil versus Surface Pro pen. So like I said, I am using software built by, sorry, these keep going to sleep here. Software built by the same manufacturer for each platform. So I'm going to assume that the brush engine is similar, that the brush mechanics are similar. So let's look at the stylus performance on the iPad Pro versus the Microsoft Surface Pro 4. I also received some feedback last time that, hey, in your test you didn't go into the surface settings for the Surface Pro pen and adjust those. So just to show you guys, I actually did open the Surface app, which comes with Windows 10 and the Surface Pro 4, which allows you to adjust pressure sensitivity. And I like a more sensitive stylus. Okay, and in this box you can go in and do your test. So this is actually my first test that I like to run on anything with a stylus. It could be an off-brand product, could be a Wacom, it could be anything. I like to do what I call the featherlight test, my featherweight test. And what that means is I'm barely holding the stylus in my hand, much like I would with a pencil if I were doing some light work and wanted to rough something in. Just lightly holding the stylus and moving it on the screen here, you can see that it's not even registering, okay? And to me, that's an indication that I don't have the sensitivity that I want at those levels. And so as I increase the pressure, you'll see that there is a little bit of drop off between those strokes, okay? And that is with the Surface app. So that's the built-in engine that Microsoft has, the hardware manufacturer uses. I can do a similar test on the iPad Pro using the Notes app, but just to be fair, let's use Sketchbook Pro. So again, with the featherweight test, I have a custom brush here that I made in Sketchbook Pro. And if I modify a few things here, radius with heavy pressure, opacity with light pressure, for example, and let's go down and save this. Okay. So now you can see here I am doing my featherweight test, holding the barrel of the stylus at almost the middle and just lightly touching the screen. And now it starts to register. Hopefully you guys can see that, but I am getting that drop off between strokes. Okay, and that's with increasing the pressure a little bit. So now let's take a look at the iPad Pro. Well, I tried to make as close a brush here as I can. So minimum opacity, etc., size. Okay, so holding the iPad Pro pencil about halfway in. Zoom in so you can see a little better. And now I'm going to lightly touch the screen. And I get registration, which is kind of what I want. There is a little drop off there, but my point is I am barely touching the screen and I'm getting that stroke to register, which tells me that the iPad Pro screen and stylus combination for my drawing style is more receptive to those light touches. Now, your mileage may vary. Some of you may say that, hey, this works fine for me. That's cool. Just the way that I draw, really light touch, this is really sensitive, and I like that. Okay. And in these brush settings, for example, if I want to crank the minimum opacity even further down and the minimum to maximum radius There's my light touch. I mean, I am barely touching the screen. And now I can increase that pressure. Okay. But it keeps up pretty well. Now, in terms of lag, that's an issue that you get with active styluses, like the Surface Pro 4 pen and the Apple Pencil. And by that I mean, the lag is, as I'm defining it, is how far behind the actual cursor is on the screen, the brush shape, as compared to the tip of the stylus. So if I go really fast, this is my speed test, you guys can see, hopefully. So I'll do a zoomed out version and a zoomed in. Here's the iPad Pro, really quick stroke. Here's a slow stroke. Okay, so there is some delay. Let's zoom in so you can see that again. Right here. It's a little delay, but it keeps up. Okay. Now let's look at the Surface Pro 4. Let's clear this out. And let's go here. Okay, it's about the same. Okay, I'm not using any scientific measurement here to measure this out, but it's about the same. Let's zoom in. Same thing we did on the iPad Pro. All right, so there you can see in terms of lag, they are pretty comparable in terms of performance. Now, with each stylus, you get different performance with things like, touch the Surface Pro stylus on the iPad Pro there. The other test rather that I use is the circle test. And the circle test is a great one because it shows you how accurately the software detects what you're intending to do. Some of these software algorithms, like I said, I'm not super technical, but from what I've read, the iPad Pro, for example, tries to anticipate what you're going to do and then act on that. So in some apps, it's a little more apparent, like in Procreate and Concepts for iPad Pro, you can kind of see this predictive algorithm that anticipates where you're going to go with that stroke, especially as you're using brushes that try to follow the stroke that you're creating. So let's do the circle test here. We'll start with Surface Pro 4. Zoom in. Okay, and so what I'm looking for really is whether the app gives me straight edges or missed strokes. And it looks like in terms of circle algorithm, or the ability to detect that I'm drawing a circle and have it show up as a circle, the Surface Pro 4 does really well. Okay, so if you're gonna draw a lot of circles or organic or curved lines, the Surface Pro definitely keeps up with those lines that you're drawing. Let's check out the iPad Pro. Same thing, circle. Oops, sketch layer is hidden there. All right. Now remember, these are the same manufacturer in terms of the app. So the brush engines should become comparable. Now it looks like the iPad Pro has a few issues on this circle. I'm going to do a few more just to make sure. Let's clear this layer out, because I want to make sure we're... Yep. So the iPad Pro is good, but I actually think the Surface Pro 4 does a little bit better in terms of being able to pick up on a circle. Now, like I said, it varies from app to app, because in Procreate, as I've used it, it has a really good algorithm or detection of a circle, and it represents what you draw as a circle. Sketchbook Pro seems to be a little bit more polished on the Surface Pro 4, and perhaps the Surface Pro 4 pen and platform tend to pick up those circles a little bit better. Okay, so next I'll talk about the tip feel, which I kind of brushed on lightly. The Surface Pro 4 does have that rubber tip, and the glass itself is actually super smooth. So if you had a plastic tip or a piece of plastic, running on the screen. In fact, if I take my iPad Pro stylus here and just rub it on the screen, it's really slick, really smooth. So the way they've solved that is by building in the texture or the feel into the tip of the stylus of the Surface Pro 4 pen. On the iPad Pro, however, they actually have put some kind of coating on the glass. And the way I know this is because I actually tried using my pencil on my iPhone screen. So if I pull my iPhone out here and try and draw on this, it has a different feel, a more slick feel than the feel of the screen on the iPad Pro. And that tells me that they've done something to the iPad Pro screen to help it feel more like a piece of paper. The way I described it before was it's almost as if you took an eraser on a pencil, dipped it in some Vaseline, and it started to wear off just enough that it was kind of grippy but slippy at the same time. So try to imagine that. Or better yet, just go to an Apple store and you can check out the iPad Pro and pencil combination and see if you like the feel and how you like the feel. Now, one more point, which is kind of a detail that I'm going to pick on here, is the actual tip of each stylus. So if I'm going to hold this up to my screen here, to my camera rather, and you can see that the iPad Pro has a very long tip and the Surface Pro has a short tip. Also, one detail that I think is overlooked quite a bit is right there. There's a very small gap, okay, between the actual tip of the stylus, the pencil, and the body. Whereas I look at the Microsoft Surface Pro 4 pen and there is no gap. However, and this is really hard to see, I think I need like some crazy macro lens setup or something. But believe me when I say this, the Surface Pro 4 pen actually has a lot of travel on the tip. Now, it's really hard for me to capture and qualify what this means for you as an artist, but think of it this way. To really get the pressure sensitivity, or not even sensitivity, the variation in my line weight that I want, I actually have to push the tip of this pen so that it physically moves about, and I'm just going to look at the side here, so pardon me, it moves about 1 millimeter to 1.5 millimeters, maybe even 2, up into the barrel of the stylus, and that's a lot of travel. In fact, Wacom makes a tip for their styluses that has a spring, and I suspect that there is a pretty decent amount of spring in this tip that gives you some travel. Okay, so it's not a deal breaker by any means, but again, it depends on how you work. I don't want to have to do extra work to get the feel that I want on the screen for a certain line. So, and like I said, it's really small, but that travel, I think, is something that the iPad Pro pencil does not have. So the pencil, it actually travels maybe 0.5 millimeter. So I can actually push on this tip with my hands and you can see it close a little bit. Again, if I had a better camera setup, you could really see that, but just trust me, that gap closes just a little bit. And if you don't trust me, go to an Apple store, play with the tip, just kind of push on it, and you'll see that gap just close up a little bit on the tip. Now, what that means is I actually don't have to push as much. In fact, I don't feel my pencil physically moving on the screen because that's not really natural. Okay, you think about something like a ballpoint pen or a pencil, a marker. When you push on that pencil, you don't feel that squishiness of that tip. It's actually fairly solid and fairly consistent. So that's something to consider if you're looking for something that feels more natural, which again is why I feel like the pencil feels more natural to me as an artist than the pencil. The Surface Pro 4 pen. However, the Surface Pro 4 pen has some clear industrial design advantages, I think, over the Apple Pencil. This is very simple, but also somewhat hampered. Another clear advantage to the Surface Pro 4 pen is that I can actually draw on screen here and flip this pen over, and now it's an eraser, which is pretty cool. And this eraser actually has a rubbery feel like the eraser of a pen would. So if that's something you like and something you can't live without, then the Surface Pro 4 pen is the one for you. However, the Apple Pencil, for whatever reason, does not have an eraser. In fact, the tip of this thing looks like the eraser that you'd find on a number 2 pencil. It's mind-boggling that they just didn't think about that. So that means that in my apps, I have to think of workarounds or try to build this muscle memory around, okay, where's the eraser? Because no matter how good an artist you are, you do erase. You make a mistake and you want to correct it. So at some point, you're going to need to use that. Sometimes more frequently than others, especially as you're learning. And to have to constantly be clicking between brush and eraser, it gets a bit old, frankly. So that's where I think there's a major mark against the Apple Pencil as a stylus. It's not great in that regard in terms of accessibility to erase and correct mistakes as you're drawing. Okay, so last clear feature comparison I'd like to make is that of the tilt. The Apple Pencil, in its marketing with the iPad Pro, one of the major features was, hey, you could tilt this thing and you can get natural feeling interaction with your tools, much like you would tilt a pencil or tilt a marker, etc. So this is hard-coded, baked into the operating system and into the pencil as hardware. Now, again, not sure how it works, but I'll just show you how it works. The Microsoft Surface Pro 4 pen does not, to my knowledge, there have been some people who've said that yes, it has tilt and you can do that. It doesn't, to my knowledge, have that optimization built in. In fact, if you look at the industrial design of both tools, okay, here's the Apple Pencil, here's the Microsoft Surface Pro 4 pen. This one, the pen, is actually, it's like they designed it to be like a pen, whereas the pencil, as the name would imply, is designed to be like a pencil. In fact, here is a pencil that I use to draw with on paper all the time. And as I draw on paper, right, I can draw with the tip of this pencil and I can flip it on the side and I can get these really cool things happening, okay? Now, it's not a one-to-one facsimile or reproduction of a natural pencil. However, that interaction, that tiltiness, as I'm going to call it, provides some interesting things that you can do. And I think with tablets as a platform, there's an opportunity for manufacturers to, whether it's hardware and software, or software rather, to really come up with some unique interactions. The Surface Pro 4 pen, like I said, I get my pressure sensitivity and it's great. The lag isn't bad, but I can't tilt, okay? In fact, if I go into the settings for this new brush that I created, which is a custom brush, in fact, on the Surface Pro 4, I can't pick up on anything that would benefit me by applying this tilt. So for example, in this brush setting, again, this is the same manufacturer, 2 different platforms. I don't get a radius variation by tilt. I'm only given the option to do so through pressure. Where tilt actually comes in is the rotation. I can actually control that by tilt. Okay, rotation dynamics. So if I tilt this, it'll modify the rotation, but the effect isn't as pronounced on the iPad Pro. So I need to spend a little bit more time to see if there's any real value there, but definitely I don't think that was a forethought in coming up with this product. I could be wrong, so if you guys are watching out there, Microsoft, ID team, whoever, just feel free to reach out to me and let me know. But in my estimation, it doesn't seem like that was a forethought in this product. More like, hey, we can detect tilt, so let's see what we can do. The Apple Pencil, however, if I go to my brush settings here and I scroll up, let's zoom in so you can see. Whoa. All right. And it was really hard to see this on-screen stuff, but I can actually adjust here, tilt for scaling. So as I draw, essentially what this does is as I draw, I can tilt and it's going to change the scale of the tip. Okay, and then I can go back on the top and tilt. Now Sketchbook Pro doesn't give me as dramatic an effect as other apps like Procreate and Concepts do with their tools. However, I'm confident that as app manufacturers listen to consumers, that they will continue to build in these features into their apps. So if tilt's a big thing for you, pencil wins. If it's not, Surface Pro 4 pen is awesome as well. Now, Final question that I always get asked, which is better? What's better? And this is the first part of my qualitative review for designers, or comparison rather, between the Surface Pro 4 and the iPad Pro. Now, starting with the Stylus, which one wins? You know, I think it honestly depends on what you like. And I know it sounds like a total cop-out answer, but it's true. It depends on how you like the feel of the pencil versus the Surface Pro 4, or how you like the fact that this has an eraser and this doesn't. So I can't tell you and say, hey, you know, just because this one comes with the Stylus, it's better. Better is completely subjective, and it really just depends on how you work and what you want to accomplish with the tool that you're about to purchase. So it really just depends. Sorry guys, it really just depends. But hopefully in watching this video, you're able to see a lot of good tidbits about each stylus and what the advantages, pros, and cons are, major and minor. So thanks for watching. I hope that you subscribe to my YouTube channel here if you like this video. There'll be more coming where I cover other features of the Surface Pro 4 versus iPad Pro 3 in depth that you can take a look at. For now, you can find me on Instagram at sketchaday.com, or you can find me on Twitter as well at Daily Sketches. Some of you have been asking if I'm on Twitter. I am, but I'm the worst. I'm not great at it. So you can reply me or hit me up, direct message, I guess, or whatever it is Twitterers do. I'll get more familiar with it in the coming weeks. But if you want to use that, feel free to reach out to me there. And look out for the next few videos in this series of the iPad Pro versus Surface Pro 4 comparison, kind of an update to my initial video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time right here on Sketchaday.